Good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to this seminar. We are very happy as Castiel to propose you this internal webinar. So for the ENCCS Consortium, it will be presented by NCC Sweden, ENCCS, and they will showcase you how to fill an access code application on the PRACE website. So Thor Wickfeld and Apostolos Vassiliadis will guide you on this topic. So I will do the presentation. If you have any question or comments, please use the question module or the chat modules to write them, or you can also raise your hand and we will give you the opportunity to unmute to share your comment or question. So use the question, chat module, or raise hand tool. Otherwise, I will now leave the floor to Thor and Apostolos.
Thank you, Marie-Francois. Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Thor Wickfeld. I'm work package leader for NCC Sweden, ENCCS, and with me I have Apostolos.
Hello, everyone.
So what we're going to do is that we will role play an NCC talking to an SME client. The SME client has gotten in touch with NCC and shown interest in getting access to free EuroHPC resources. And this is the first online meeting between the NCC and the client, where we walk through the procedure of applying for EuroHPC time. And we hope you find it useful. It's really not rocket science, but it's good to see it, I think, once done by someone else. And I will be the NCC and Apostolos will be the client. Please ask questions. It's going to be rather informal, and I think we'll try to keep it to half an hour, so we have time for questions and discussion at the end. Apostolos, as the client, will talk about a use case. It's inspired by one of the actual use cases that we have supported in Sweden from a company. Anything else general to add to that, Apostolos?
Not really, no. I will be the imaginary client, so yeah. Try to
okay, let's begin. Yeah. Okay, role play starts now. So hi, Apostolos, nice to meet you.
Hello.
Yeah, good to finally meet you. I got your email. I'm very happy that you got in touch, and it really sounds like you have an interesting use case and that we can help you with your work, in particular to get access to your HPC. So tell me first a little bit shortly about your project.
Well, our company is active in the fashion industry, and what both retail and production, and what we have seen is that there's a lot of costs that comes with damaged clothes, returns, and so forth. So what we would like to do is create an AI model that will be able to distinguish damaged clothes, so that the whole process, the logistics behind transportation and everything, it can be smoother.
Right, very interesting. And remind me again, so is this open research and development?
Well,
part of it confidential?
No, nothing is confidential, apart from we have some algorithms from our developers that, of course, are not, we cannot publish, but otherwise the fact that we can have access to a machine and use resources is not confidential at all.
Right. Yeah, so I should preface everything by saying that EuroHPC is free to use for people in the European Union, companies in EU and affiliated countries to Horizon 2020, and it's for open research and development projects. It doesn't mean that you have to disclose everything about your project, but you should be able and willing to write a report at the end of your project where you sort of show the main results and so on. I can come back to that question later. And yeah. And also remind me what you wrote in the email. You already have a smaller model that you've been playing around with in the cloud, is that true?
At the moment, we're using a cloud service that we use a couple of GPUs to train a simpler version of our project, but because we need to scale up then the costs rise exponentially in those services. So actually the Euro HPC-JU infrastructure becomes quite a necessity for us for the development. But before we get into this, how all this works, I mean, how ENCCS and Euro HPC work exactly?
Okay, so ENCCS is one of 33 nodes of the EuroCC network. We are funded by EuroHPC. EuroHPC is a funding organization funding both hardware, the EuroHPC systems, and skills and development, competence development in Europe, for example, through the EuroCC project. All our services are free. They are free of charge, paid for by the EU, and also the access to EuroHPC is free for open research and development projects.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would like to begin by showing you our webpage. I'm sure you've seen it before. My colleague, I think, sent you this link. So enccs.se, you can find us there. You can reach out to us. Well, you can follow us on social media. Recommend that you do so. We will walk you through getting access to a supercomputer today. But if you're interested in any of our other services like training and getting more detailed software support, don't hesitate to get in touch. We have an extensive training offering, and we also, in some cases, can work with clients on longer-term projects, on pilot projects, proof of concepts. So if any of that is interesting for the future, please let me know. But for now, let's focus on getting you onto EuroHPC. And for that purpose, I would like to first go to this page here, Get Supercomputer Access. Just have to move this control panel out of the way. Okay. So we will guide you to choose the best system, the best EuroHPC system for your use case. We can help you with the actual proposal itself and helping you get access. And if you run into problems, if you have any issues getting started on the HPC system, just write us an email or call me and we can help you. First, I would like to show you the selection of systems that we can apply for. So these are the EuroHPC machines, actually roughly in order of size. So Lumi and Leonardo and Mare Nostrum, they're all in the top 10 list of top 10 biggest supercomputers in the world. Lumi is in Finland, Leonardo in Italy, and Mare Nostrum in Spain. And then the others are not bad either. They're very powerful here and there in Europe. But so regarding your use case, I'm wondering, you mentioned training an AI model. Which software will you be using?
Well, we use PyTorch as well as some NVIDIA libraries. So we're using NVIDIA GPUs on the cloud service that we're at the moment.
Right. And which GPU have been using?
We have used A100 and A100s as well as some smaller GPUs.
Right. Okay, so then actually we have already a distinguishing feature. So Lumi, it's a wonderful machine. It's very powerful, but it actually does not have NVIDIA GPUs. It has AMD GPUs. So probably Lumi, unfortunately, is not good for your use case, but that leaves most of the other systems actually, because most of them have indeed NVIDIA A100s. And so you've been using a cloud environment. Does one of you have experience with working in a Unix shell environment?
Yes.
Linux? Yeah?
Yes, and we also use containers, namely Docker, for our training.
Right, okay. So I can just tell you right away that accessing a supercomputer is different than working in the cloud. Typical HPC usage involves logging in via a Unix terminal, using Unix commands, loading modules on the cluster, running jobs on the cluster. Some of this is not easy. If you need help to get started, we can help you with that, actually. Just get in touch. But I also want to bring your attention to the fact that at least Meloxina and perhaps some of the other clusters here, I know Lumi has it, but that's an AMD machine. Meluxina has a cloud-based interface as well. So if your developers, researchers are most comfortable in a Jupyter lab, Jupyter environment, Meluxina offers that type of access too. So if that's a deciding feature, then you might want to go for Meluxina. And regarding containers, I should also tell you that you can run containerized workflows on all of these machines, except it cannot be Docker. So Docker does not run on HPC. You need actually to run a different technology called Singularity. It is based on the same principles as Docker, except it doesn't require root access like running a Docker container does. But the good news is that you can actually take your Docker image and convert it to a Singularity image and run it on any of these machines.
So there isn't any training involved in this, heavy training to change from Docker to Singularity?
No, that's a rather trivial thing. If you need help, again, we're happy to help with that. Now let's move on to what resources are available to you. Well, we can come back to the question of which system to apply for, but let's first look at how much you can get. So in short, there are 4 different access modes to your HPC machines, ranging from the smallest scale access, benchmark, through to development, regular, and extreme. Extreme access is really extreme. It's basically, yeah, you see rough numbers here. These are not exact numbers. It depends on which system you apply for, but these are enormous resources that you in principle have access to. I don't know if you will be scaling up eventually, but most of our clients settle somewhere here. And I should also tell you that in order to get access to a lot of resources via the extreme and regular access calls, you need to have some demonstrated experience from the smaller tier accesses. And moreover, you need to, for these 2 categories here, write both a technical proposal and a larger proposal called the project scope, project plan and scope document, around 20 pages. We can help with that if the time comes. If you've been running on these smaller tiers for a while and you feel that you can scale up, we can help you with writing those proposals. But these 2 calls are have 3 deadlines each year. So only, I think, in March, and then what is it, July, and then November, you can apply for these big access modes, and they are peer reviewed by a panel. The smaller access modes, development and benchmark, they are continuously open. You can send in your application anytime, and they are not peer reviewed. They are reviewed on a technical level by the HPC experts at the EuroHPC center in question. And there's no project scope document, there's only the technical proposal. The difference between these 2 is that benchmark, it's only 3 months of access. It's for quick testing. You want to try something out. Does it actually work on HPC and so on? Limited resources, although quite respectable nonetheless. Development access is longer, 6 or 12 months. You choose yourself, and somewhat more resources. So do you have any estimate of how much time, how much resources you actually need?
Well, even though it's not completely clear, I think that the development access would suffice for our use.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. So most of our clients actually go for development access. I think I would like to now bring you to the next page. My colleague will send you all these links in a separate email after this meeting. This is the web page of EuroHPC joint undertaking, and you can get some information about the systems, supercomputers, and other information here. There are actually other calls open. You can apply for the to access the supercomputers, but there are some funding opportunities for projects too. But I think I would first like to show you the access policy and FAQ. You see here that researchers from academia, research institutes, public authorities, and industry can apply for computing time. You see these 4 modes here again. Eligibility, your company is based in the EU, so you will be eligible for access. I just want to scroll down here to the frequently asked questions. Which countries are eligible? You can see the organizations from participating states to the EuroHPC are eligible. You can find the complete list here. Which organizations? Any organization that performs open science research, where the results of the work are made available for open access. What documents are required? Well, I will walk you through that. We need a technical proposal only for development access. What's the cost? There is no cost. It's free. What are the conditions? So, if you publish anything as a result of your work on a EuroHPC system, you should acknowledge the use of these resources in those publications. And you should also help us to and contribute to dissemination events. There will be two things. You will be submitting a final report after completion of your allocation, and that can and will be used as a success story on the EuroHPC website to inspire other companies to do as you did and apply for EuroHPC access. But we will also ask you, as part of our NCC, to write a very simple text, 1 page, describing your use case, the problem that you had, and what results you got, and what the benefits were of using HPC. So if that's one of the requirements for getting access, that we will publish a news story, a success story with your use case. All right, so let me go up to the top once more, and let's click apply now. What happens then? We get taken to the PRACE-calls portal. PRACE is another European collaboration on HPC, older than EuroHPC. EuroHPC is still using the PRACE portal for these applications. So you see that currently there are 2 open calls, development access and benchmark. They are continuously open. The cutoff ends in 6 days. So if you manage to send in your application in the coming 6 days, hopefully you will only need to wait around 2 or maximum 3 weeks to actually get the access. It's quite fast. There's no peer review. As I said, your application is first handled by the EuroHPC. There will be an initial screening process based on eligibility criteria, but the technical proposal itself goes to the EuroHPC Center, who will then decide whether your use case, your project fits well on their resources. And you will have to go to this page, PRACE-calls.eu. You will receive this in the follow-up email after this meeting. You should sign up for this portal. I already have an account, so I can go to login, and I log in here. And let me go to the calls. I will click now the development access. You see here just a little bit of description, and we hit the apply to call button. Apply. So the deal now is that I will show you how this form works, what you have to fill. It's your responsibility to fill this form after our meeting today, but we will help you along the way. Some of these fields are rather tricky. There's a lot of technical questions here. Some of them can be difficult to understand, particularly if you come from a different environment, you come from the cloud environment, and if you're not developing your own software, you're using you're using PyTorch and so on. Some of these questions can be tricky, but we will help you with that. And I would like to encourage you to do this, to do the first steps yourself. And if you run into any problems, if there's any field here that you don't understand, don't hesitate to just hit this button here on the right, documents, click this consolidated online forms to download a PDF copy of your filled application and send it to us by email, and we will comment, we will give feedback on all these fields that you're wondering about. All right.
So you can save the form and then come back to it later.
Indeed, you just save it. You don't need to submit it right away. You can start it and then you save it, and export it here and send it to us. And normally we recommend that you do the first steps yourself. You can then ask us questions over email, and we send back answers to your questions, suggestions for the fields that you're wondering about. And then we can have another meeting where we actually walk through the final details and we hit the submit button together. Yeah. Anyway, so the first pages of the proposal here are maybe hopefully simple for you. Project title, summary, the scientific case of the project, some keywords. Is it for civilian purposes? It has to be. Is any part of the project confidential? No. If there's some confidentiality, maybe you have to justify it here. You should classify the research field according to these categories. And here you decide whether you want to go for a 6-month or a 12-month project. And as you will see here on a later page, you will get a fixed amount of resources, which the size of which is determined by which machine you go for. For example, if you apply for Meloxina, you will get 3,000 GPU node hours for the whole development project. And that's regardless of whether you choose 6 months or 12 months. So if you go for 6 months, you have 3,000 GPU node hours in total over 6 months. While if you choose 12 months, it's half the amount of resources per unit time. So it's the same amount of resources, but for longer.
A question regarding the research fields. There is a percentage there. What exactly does that mean?
Well, I think that's the research field. Yeah, that's if you add another research field. You are doing computer science and you're also doing something else, I'm not sure. Then you can sort of say that this project is 70% computer science, 30% material science, something like that.
Do we need to be extra careful or specific with this percentage?
Not really. I think it's mostly for accounting purposes by the HPC centers. They're interested in knowing what research domains their supercomputers are being used for.
All right.
Yeah. Here you can set the starting date when you want to start. It doesn't have to be right now. It can be sometime in the future if that fits your team better. Industry involvement. So you're an SME. PI stands for principal investigator. So you will probably be the PI yourself. And also your team members will be from the same company. So you should choose as AI and team member, and there will be no public sector involvement. The following two are easy, just information about yourself as the principal investigator, where do you work, and so on. Contact person, that will be you also. Team members. Here you can list all your team members that will be part of this project. These people will also get they will be invited to the project if it gets approved on the EuroHP system. They will be added to the project and they will be invited to create a user account on the HPC system. If you would like to add team members later, another person joins your project, then you can just write to the support queue, to the support email of the HPC center, and they will create a new email account, a new user account for that person. Okay, now for the technical parts, partitions. Here is now, so what do they mean by partition? So here is where you actually select which Euro HPC system you want to apply for, and whether you need the GPU partition or the CPU partition or even the FPGA partition. You see that most of the clusters are here. Leonardo Booster, that's GPUs as well. We talked about Meloxina, so let's go for the Meloxina GPU partition. And what you will see now is that the requested amount of resources becomes set, preset, 3,000 GPU node hours. If you would have selected, I don't know, Leonardo, there you get 3,500 node hours. Here you will list the codes that you will use, basically PyTorch and a listing of the NVIDIA libraries that you just mentioned.
Okay, so you just write PyTorch and other libraries that, or maybe software that we're going to be using if we're going to use some software.
Yeah. So software A and so on.
Yeah.
You will have here.
A question that I forgot to ask is that about the nodes, how powerful those nodes are, and what exactly does it mean, the 3,000 node hours?
Right. 3,000 node hours. So each node on most of the machines has 128 CPU cores over 2 CPU chips. And in all cases, actually, if I go back to ENCCS, all of these machines, I think, have 4 GPUs per node. So what does this number mean? 3,000 node hours. Each node hour here is actually 4 GPU hours because each node has 4 GPUs. So so this will amount to 12,000 GPU hours on an A100 NVIDIA GPU.
All right.
And then you are asked many questions about your usage, your intended usage. And you should keep in mind that these do not need to be absolutely exact answers that you give. This is to make, the questions are really meant for making a sanity check whether your project makes sense, whether you know what you actually want to do, how your code works. And it's a sanity check, and it's also a check on to see whether your intended use case actually fits well on HPC or not. So they don't need to be absolutely exact, but you should give your best estimates here for these numbers. So you have to supply information on things like average number of processes or threads, average job memory. I hope maybe some of your technical people will know this about your AI training. If you have any questions, if you don't know this, just write us an email and we will get someone to help you with it. Maximum amount of memory needed, total amount of data to be transferred, and a justification for that. I guess you will be copying over large data sets with pictures of clothes.
Yes.
Yeah. Whether I/O is a bottleneck or not. You might not know exactly what PyTorch is doing under the hood. Is it using any I/O libraries? The answer is yes. PyTorch is using performant, high performance I/O libraries. But if you're using any other libraries, tools on the cluster, and you don't know what it's using under the hood, you can also just get in touch, and we will find out. We will get one of our AI experts to help you.
All right.
Okay, so do your best on these fields and let us know if you get into any problems. If you could in principle here add a partition. If you want both access to the Meluxina GPU partition and the Meluxina CPU partition, if you want to run something only on the CPU nodes, that's perfectly fine as well. You can apply for that here.
It's the same access. It's the same access. It's not double.
No, this is you will actually, if you apply for both, you will get both the 3,000, and if it's approved, you will get 3,000 node hours on the GPU partition and 10,000 on the CPU partition.
All right.
Okay, so as if that wasn't technical enough, there will be even more technical details needed in the next to final section, code details and development. Scrolling up to the bottom top. I should tell you the background here. Why is it actually called development access? This derives from an earlier PRACE access project in Europe, where you were actually expected to be developing your HPC code during development access. That has sort of been abandoned as a requirement. Now you can apply for your HPC development access without actually developing your code, developing an HPC code from scratch or so. It's perfectly fine to get access to your HPC and just run PyTorch or TensorFlow or any other AI framework. But the questions are still here, and you need to give some answers. sometimes the right answer can just be not applicable, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that your application will be rejected. But in many cases, we usually recommend our clients to do their best to describe some aspects of development in these applications. So when it comes to development of the codes, you can say that you're going to use PyTorch for this and that purpose, but you will perhaps be developing a very effective workflow to train your AI models on the system.
So the development of our algorithm is a good description here to write to Phil.
Yeah, of course. If you're going to develop other libraries on top of PyTorch, something like that, that's perfect to describe here. But yeah, and here you provide details of the code. If there are, you can, if you're using different codes, I mean, you mentioned PyTorch and you mentioned other libraries as well. I would add a section for each. You have to provide the licensing model, web page, contact information of the code developers, even your relationship to the code. It will most likely just be user. Scalability and performance. So there's a very detailed questions here, and they actually do serve a purpose because it's really good when you run an HPC to have a good understanding of the performance of your code, even if it's a well-known software developed by a big company. That's what they want to see at the HPC centers. They want to see users that are careful about their usage. They don't waste resources. They use the resources efficiently, effectively. So it's useful. Maybe you already know this within your team, but if not, I would encourage you to think about understanding your application better. What is the scalability? What is the performance? Where are the performance bottlenecks, and so on? Is there any target for scalability? You can say that you need a certain time to solution in your training, and what's your target there? Optimization, how will your optimization work contribute to future tier 0 projects? That might not be relevant for you. Tier 0 will be the regular access or the extreme access. If you find that to be relevant for you, you want to scale up in the future, train even bigger models, and something that will require more than you can get in the development access, maybe you should justify here what type of optimizations, what type of scale up you will do to prepare for the future tier 0 or regular access.
Mm-hmm.
If it's completely irrelevant to do any optimization work yourself, if you already know that the workflow is optimal, you're using optimal libraries, optimal PyTorch, whatever, then it's fine to say so here. You can say that the code that you're using is highly optimized for HPC. It runs very well across multiple GPUs, and so on and so on. But if you and your team really don't know what this refers to here, we get in touch with us afterwards, and we'll have one of our AI experts help you. Performance bottlenecks, describing possible solutions. You might not have the bottlenecks, or you might have them. HPC is all about running very effectively, so it's good to be aware of these bottlenecks. Anyway, so if this, do your best and fill this application, and let us know what questions you have. You again, reminder, you export your application here as PDF, and you just send it to us in PDF form. And then together, when you're done, when we have given you our feedback, we can have another short meeting where we walk through everything, make sure that it looks good, and then we can hit the submit button together eventually.
All right. So I can go back to our developers and discuss the technical issues and then get back to you.
Indeed, absolutely. And don't hesitate to ask questions. We are here to help. End of role play.
Cool, great.
Questions from the audience?
Yes, there are already several questions.